Good evening. Welcome back to the B-Movie Bunker. Today, we are looking at 2014's What We Do in Shadows. This is brought to us by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. I'm not pronouncing that anywhere probably even close to correct, but this is the story of a foursome of vampires who live in a flat, or a house together, actually, in modern times. This one was a lot of fun. I expected, this is the type of humor I expect from Clement, you know, and the whole, it's got a bit of that Flight of the Conchords vibe to it. I liked it a lot. I like the way that they tell the story. There are some people who have complained that the film seems amateurish and the lighting is bad, the cinematography and the acting. I think, in my viewing of it, and I've watched it twice now, this is all intentional. That it's made to be, I mean, it's a mockumentary, is what it is. It's basically a documentary being shot about how these vampires live their lives, their average, ordinary lives. And discussions that, roommates would have about things like, leaving messes and who's doing the dishes and things like that. And I think the overall cinematography, the look of it, it's meant to have that feel. This is just a guy with a camera and, that single light on top, and that's about it. There's not like, it's not an elaborate cinematic, version that would be done like with a massive film crew and a soundstage and a set and all that. This is them shooting in their home. On those lines, I love the setting of the home, the way it looks. It's very run down, and it has this feel that this was one time a grand house. It was a nice place, and it's just seen much better days. Much like the characters, the vampires themselves. The glory days of the vampire is long gone. I mean, despite what's going on in cinema and, and the fact that people still read about them and watching movies, you don't have that same thing, because vampires they're definitely, they fit that whole Victorian era and earlier in the Dark Ages and, back in a time when the world itself was simpler. But it's funny because you have the vampires, and the youngest of which is 180, something like that. And a younger vampire, or basically a new vampire, introduces them to things that they aren't used to, things like the internet and stuff like that. And it's really funny watching them interact in kind of, the fact they've been out of the loop for so long, but they don't quite know it, because they're very stuck in their ways. It's not that different than, like an older person now, someone who grew up in, the 1920s and 30s and 40s. They're not, super tech savvy, and they don't want to change because, I'm too old. I don't need that crap. And it's fun how they kind of are both intimidated by it, but also amazed by it. I like the overall interaction that the characters have, the vampires have, with each other, as well as with other people. And I like how the movie plays on a lot of the, the old superstition and beliefs, of how vampires interact. The fact that they have to be invited in anywhere means their social life suffers a lot, because they can't go out to a bar or a nightclub. They need to be invited inside. So it's fun how it plays on stuff like that. There's a fair amount of blood. It's not like super gory, but there's some blood, but a lot of it's used in a comedic way. Even if it is gory and bloody, it's done in a way that is actually kind of funny. And I like the interaction with the local werewolves. It's just a lot of fun, along with the straight man, Stu, who is the human who's brought into the group by the new vampire. His character is brilliant in this, and I love it. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to say this is kind of like, it's like a Spinal Tap version of like Bram Stoker's Dracula, with a bit of real world sprinkled in, And I'm not saying it is as good a film as Spinal Tap, but I think it's a very funny film, and I think it's done absolutely in that kind of vein of that, mockumentary, and I think they do a good job of it, and I like the overall look and the feeling, the atmosphere, and the characters. I mean, I would like to see more of what goes on with these guys. I think that the story leaves itself open for so much more, but I think that's part of the charm of it too, is you can let your mind wander and think about what these people, these vampires, what they do and what the whole society is like, because you get glimpses of other characters and other vampires and zombies and other creatures and, these monsters as they were. But I would definitely recommend checking this out, especially if you're a fan of things like Spinal Tap or Flight of the Conchords or stuff like that. This is it's not like it's the most unique thing ever. I mean, obviously the mockumentaries have been around. They've done other things with, documentaries about vampires. But I like the way this is done, with tongue very firmly in cheek. But it's still making some good commentary just on the whole way that, society works, and the way people interact with each other. And that it's not different for a vampire. There's still, to some degree, they're still people. So I liked it a lot. I would say check it out. Till next time, you all stay safe out there in the wasteland, folks.